Hello and welcome to another episode of a Rugby Through the Leagues podcast. This one is actually a collaboration with another amazing podcast that's also trying to spread the word of Tier 2, Tier 3 rugby and just every hidden gem that we all love about the game that the mainstream media don't seem to fancy. We are joined by Charlie today, one half of What's All the Ruckus podcast. How are you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
So for those that haven't sort of, because you guys are predominantly a bit more on sort of X or Twitter or whatever the world wants to call it, you're predominantly more on that. You've had some amazing guests on, mate, so really, really massive kudos for that. But a lot of people are starting to find the love for the Tier 2, Tier 3. What made you sort of dive into it similar to us?
I started getting into journalism about a year and a half ago now, and I realised there's not much coverage at all about rugby beyond, Six Nations Rugby Championship. And, you're one of a few people alongside us now who actually give it the spotlight that, it definitely deserves. So to me, it was a real eye-opener going into journalism and realising actually there's not much about rugby because it is super interesting. All these stories and all these people from across the globe. It was interesting enough in football, and obviously everyone plays football. Rugby is a niche sport with niche countries, so it's just niche on niche, which I mean is right up mine and Josh's street. But yeah, there's just so many stories that just haven't been covered as you've certainly found, and we have as well. So yeah, it's sort of we've been into niche stuff for a while, but rugby just provided a vehicle for that, but a arguably more interesting vehicle for that as well, I would say.
Yeah, I love that. Before I moved to Spain, I followed football as well. Pompey fan, always been. But I sort of, me and my mates I was like, the amount of non-league clubs that were like local to me that I'd never been to, like literally live around the corner from one, never been to. So before I moved here, I just said to the lads, I was like, right, I want to go and do like a non-league tour. Let's just go and pick random games. Just go, like, I went to watch Gosport on a Tuesday night against Fareham Town, and like you stand that close, you're able to just shout abuse at a lino while just having a laugh with them, and then they could actually hear what was going. It was just, those are the bits that you don't get in the big stadium. And there's so many grassroots rugbies that everyone can go and have a laugh, and you sort of get absorbed into the family, the atmosphere, and it's just on just such a grand scale. And then when you get into Rugby Europe and the top tiers, obviously Spanish rugby, Portuguese rugby, the amount of people that love the game under the top tier, it's just a gem upon gem, and we've got an open fountain of enthusiasm to be able to tap into. So it's an exciting time ahead, and obviously you guys you've had some banging guests on. Obviously, you had David Niniashvili. Did you borrow the tash from him, or did you see his tash and decided?
I think his is a bit better than mine, to be fair. But I'll take that.
Amazing. So obviously, you managed to chat with David. You had was it Fabian Holland on the other day? You obviously went to the All Blacks, was originally from Netherlands. You're also part of Ruck as well, aren't you? So Ruck is obviously a rugby paper. Some people love it or hate it. Obviously people think it's more of a clickbait vessel rather than quality journalism. Obviously no judgment comment on you, Charlie. So, but obviously, has that helped you being able to bridge the gap with some of those, or have you literally had to do like ourselves, just dig in the trenches, message as many people and just see if somebody responds, or how's that sort of helped?
I'd say it's a bit of both, to be fair, because you can use the Ruck sort of as a vehicle to give it a bit more weight, because I mean, like you say, obviously I'm not going to talk about people's opinions on Ruck, and I think it's slightly fair enough, slightly harsh what you said. I can see your opinion, but I would say
I don't have anything that brings exposure to rugby. I just don't see it, because I don't really. It's not. That's more the tier 1 stuff. They don't really focus on the other bits. But some people, I see some of the comments, and some people get so angry by it. It's so funny.
Yeah.
But you got to bring people to rugby for people to see rugby. So if that works and they clickbait it, crack on.
Yeah.
But obviously, as long as they don't come in our lane, we're happy.
Yeah, no, and I think that's what it's all about, really. It's about getting eyes on rugby and eyes on the sport. And like you say, some people would call it clickbait, and that's probably fair enough in the grand scheme of things. But for a sport like rugby, you do need people to take an interest in it. You do need people to see it. But yeah, so I mean, that's my day job, and obviously I'm a new journalist, as I mentioned early on. So I'm a bit, I guess, naive. So I always try and avoid that sort of clickbait stuff and try and stick to. It sounds cliche, but try and stick to quality journalism. So I guess that's hopefully helped the site sort of move away from that clickbait tag. I'd like to think it has. Whether it has or not is a different story. But yeah, so a few stories end up on there because I mean they're interviews at the end of the day, so I can use quotes from speaking to various people and put articles on Ruck. So hopefully that gives Tier 2 a bit more exposure as well. And that's what I'm trying to do as well through the podcast, but also through Ruck, because Ruck's got a much bigger audience than our podcasts, really. So trying to avoid the clickbait as much as possible, but well aware that it's potentially part of, the organisation that I work for.
So obviously we've both interviewed Finnley Harrison. What a top bloke he is as well, for where he come from to where he is now, and he's also trying to pave the way for future players and coaches that are at 21 and being a DOR of an international side is a testament to him and himself. And obviously both of our chats are with him with two separate sort of paths as well, and you get two sides of it, and just such an articulate young man for his passion for rugby and the development as well. When you spoke to him, did you sort of sit back and think, wow, like this, he is as impressive as it sounds?
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, 21 years old in a DOR for an international rugby team, that is absolutely insane. And I believe it's the only person we've ever had on the podcast that is younger than both me and Josh, because he's just turned 23, I'm 22. So like he's just slightly younger than both of us. But yeah, really had to sit back and think, how on earth do you do that at such a young age? And yeah, unbelievably impressive. And I echo exactly what you said about him being a top bloke and all of that, because yeah, it was definitely one of my favourite chats that I've had.
Oh yeah, I come away and I was like, yeah, this is a banger. And obviously for people that haven't watched it, go and just sit and just listen to his enthusiasm just poured out. I was taken aback by it. I've managed to interview quite a few, and you think, yeah, this lad's going somewhere. But yeah, well, I'm 36 in about 3 weeks' time, mate. So yeah, most of them are either younger than me or sort of my same age. So yeah, not quite on the same level as you guys. Right, should we get into it? Tier 2, Tier 3 rugby. What do you see it in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years' time?
Good question. I would say in 2 years, I don't think loads and loads will change. I think you're starting to see in Europe, especially, the levels getting better and better with the likes of, I'm thinking in the trophy, because that's this weekend, the sort of final day. You've got Czechia, who have had Bohemia Warriors and started professionalising. You've got Poland with the semi-pro league, but then they've also got quite a large number of players outside of Poland of Polish heritage that they can call upon if needs be. So I would say, and then obviously Sweden as well with Arle Lohman, who's now playing in the Prem for Tigers. So you're seeing bits and bobs of players and organisations and stuff getting better and better. So I'd say in 2 years, you might see a few more players sort of moving into the top levels of European rugby from nations like that. Globally, it's hard to say really in terms of 2 years. Probably a similar.
Do you think the Nations Cup or whatever they've called it's going to make much of a difference, or do you think it's just more of a climate change situation? It's going to end up pissing more people off than.
Yeah. I don't think it will make a massive difference. It's good to see that there'll be games played between Tier 2 nations, but obviously they're all the top level Tier 2 nations who usually don't struggle massively, I would say, in terms of getting matches and getting decent opposition. You see, like Chile played Italy in the summer, in the autumn, stuff like that. So I don't see it massively helping. It'll be a decent experience, I think, ahead of the World Cup for them, because that's really the purpose. But it probably would have been better and more advantageous if they had some tests against like tier one nations, like Spain had against England A. I think stuff like that is massively beneficial because they gave them a good game, and I'd imagine they took a lot from playing them because it was a team full of prem starters. So I would say stuff like that's probably more beneficial, to be honest.
I tend to agree. I think the short term, we've got to probably look at those Scotland 15s, Ireland A, all of these sort of Italy 15. That's the next bridge, not just having to get teams to travel across the world like Spain having to go to Canada and America. They did it last season. They've already done that. It's not like it's something new. It's not like, and in Zimbabwe having to use the UK as a home base because people don't want to travel to Zimbabwe. You think, hold on, that's part of it. Like an away day in Zimbabwe would be different gravy, I think, in my opinion.
100%.
But it's just so diluted. I think long term, if it grows and gathers pace, I think it could be beneficial. But I think that's where you'd have to potentially include those Italy 15s, South Africa 15 or whatever, and like the B teams to try and increase the competition and close that gap to tier one. Because as you see, Fiji are probably a tier 1.5, I'd say, conservatively. Yeah. They're not quite a tier one, but they're too good for tier two. But Spain have run them close twice now. So, like, they're getting the exposure. But until, and I spoke this with Nicola Matawalu yesterday when I interviewed him, that one day when a tier one nation goes to Fiji and plays in Fiji, I think that's the day they become a tier one nation. I think that's the day we know they've made it.
Mm.
But I agree with you on the the sort of the 2-year plan. I think it's very conservative and a little bit too corporate rather than actually development model, in my opinion. 5 years then, where do you see it in 5? Do you think it changing much?
Well, 5 years, that'll be sort of around the time as the 2031 World Cup, won't it be? So I don't know about changing loads before then, but potentially 2031 and 2035, that could be, I feel like, where there's the real catalyst for change, whether it's for good or bad. I'm sure you'd happily talk about Spain and the 2035 World Cup potentially and the benefits that it could have. But I think it's a real opportunity for World Rugby to make rugby a global game. Like you say, Spain, World Cup, they're knocking on the door already. Imagine how much they'd be knocking on the door with the sort of carrot of a home World Cup. So I think 5 years, obviously building up to the USA World Cup. USA rugby is such a weird one, isn't it? So you can't really say either way whether that World Cup's actually going to benefit them or not. I'd err more towards it not having a huge benefit and rugby potentially not being able to crack America. I mean, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that as well, to be honest.
If you asked me 2-3 months ago, I'd have said Rugby in America's dead, with the teams dropping like flies, down to six teams, no clear development path, there was nothing there. But what's been done behind the scenes in the MLR in the last 2-3 months has probably changed. It's not an instant result, but I think by the time we get to the World Cup, I think there will be a stronger America. There will be a stronger setup. There will be a stronger MLR. I don't think it will. I think there'll be a maximum of 8 teams in that model. I think what they're looking at doing, like listening to Will Hooley and the VP that comes on there on his podcast quite a bit, I think they're looking at doing like a Nations Cup alongside model within the regions and stuff like that. So they're going to try and not just have the MLR season, but also a sort of a Challenge Cup model as well, which would be really cool. But they're obviously delving back into the Americas Cup as well. So the sort of South America teams are going to be involved. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's in the coming years, once MLR stabilises and obviously the Super Rugby Americas carries on growing the way it is, it would not surprise me if there's a return of like an America's Champions League Super Cup model that supplements the lack of MLR teams. I think the tide has turned. I think there's enough of a sticky plaster put over it at the minute to get through this season after the shit show of a summer that they had. I think we're starting to see where America could make it great again.
Yeah.
No, I don't know if you agree, but I think there is enough there now to re-stabilise what was just a wild west of a shit show, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think their best chance is, like you mentioned, to sort of team up, if you will, with the South America, because Super Rugby Americas is an unbelievable competition. Like, that's probably the fastest growing competition in the world, domestic, or well, not domestic because it's across nations, but you know what I mean? Like, the fastest growing league in the world, because honestly, some of the, I think they broke the attendance record either last week or the week before, I'm pretty sure. You know, teams are doing well, generating interest, and it's well built in the sense that plenty of nations are involved. You've got Paraguay with a team, Brazil, you know, all of them have their own teams. So to me, the MLR and American rugby does need to almost, I guess, piggyback off of that, if you will, to try and generate some interest. And yeah, like you say, I think collaboration between those two would be the best course of action. And there's definitely potential in America, but it's time for that potential to be realised, because I think the clock's ticking and there needs to be a point where World Rugby says, listen, it ain't working in America. And I think that point will have to be after the 2031 World Cup, depending on how it goes and all of that. Maybe give it a couple of years after that and then see where we're at.
I think the 250 million that they've sunk into it will not allow them to do that any time before. That's for sure. Yeah. They're not going to turn the tide. So that sticky plaster is going to be firmly placed on it to make it look like a success. Obviously, I love Super Rugby Americas. We had Joe Santamaria on as well, who's there in the mix of it, and we just wax lyrical about it. Obviously, they've just added the capybaras, so there's a fourth Argentinian side. They reckon that Chile are going to add a second one to subsidise Selknam. The Chile team, obviously, as you said, they come across and played Italy and done extremely well. And I think the biggest gap that's going to probably be bridged between the success of Super Rugby Americas is when we're able to view it outside of South America.
Yeah, 100%.
It's the rights issue that's not being resolved, and I think once we bridge that gap, the market's going to get bigger and bigger. Obviously, the MLR is easy to get hold of. It's just on at a really shit time for anyone in Europe. But I think the biggest loss for MLR this season was the Miami Sharks, because the Miami Sharks was that perfect middle ground between America and South America, because it was a predominantly South American team it was the perfect mix. So I had heard a lot of rumblings that they were going to sort of look at joining Super Rugby Americas. There was conversations because there's previously been American sides. I think a year or two's time, there'll be another bigger push again for how they try to resolve and save the region. Because obviously you still got to look at including Canada. Obviously, Canada have got to sort of be involved. I think the perfect mix is started, but it'll be exciting to see. And then you've got obviously the Africa Nations Cup system that plays every year. Zimbabwe getting out of that and sort of getting themselves into the World Cup. Does that bring the other nations along? The whole mix is exciting to see. But the World Cup 2035 in Spain, obviously, I'd love to see it. I think it's time. It should go to South America, but I think because America got the 2031 World Cup, it's probably going to come towards Europe. I don't think we need to go back to Japan. Like, Japan would be the easy option because it's already been there. It's not like a way of progressing the game. I think 2035 in Spain, whether it's a joint bid with Portugal, I think that would strengthen the bid, in my opinion. I don't think that Spain would probably want to look at it, or you could also include sort of the Basque region and like up into sort of Biarritz, and you could those stadiums. Imagine a World Cup game, a Spanish World Cup game in Biarritz. Or against France or something like that as well. Imagine if they get the same group and they got that game. Imagine that. It'd be absolutely unreal to see. And there's so many plot lines that we could all follow and just sort of get so excited about. I've actually got goosebumps on my arms there because just imagine that, that atmosphere. Like, what was it? Biarritz had the game against Bayonne the other weekend. It was absolutely stacked. Like, people couldn't even hear themselves think, let alone just that. It'd be unreal to see on a World Cup stage and showcase exactly what the game has to offer. But that's also now World Rugby have got to look at supporting the Rugby Europe now, not just using it as an afterthought while they've got the sticky plaster over America.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't really know too much about how much influence and stuff World Rugby has on Rugby Europe. I sort of think of it as
loads. Loads.
Yeah, I never really hear or I guess consider it. I always hear of Rugby Europe decisions, but I never consider how much World Rugby plays into it. But yeah, I'd imagine, like you say, is huge.
So Rugby Europe Super Cup is actually fully funded by World Rugby. So World Rugby fund the Super Cup. Yeah. So that's fully funded by World Rugby. So there's a lot of questions around how successful that may be. I think this has probably been the best Super Cup we've seen. I think it was great to see nations being able to centralise contract teams and bring, like, obviously the Iberians took it full strength. It's worked wonders for Netherlands. I know the results didn't sort of showcase that probably in the Rugby Europe, but when I was speaking to Brian Eason, he was like, this is a long-term project. This is a 2031 project. We're safe. We can keep moving. We'll grow this. It's only going to get bigger. I think it was 19 debutants during the Rugby Europe Championships, which for a side that was aging in Netherlands was exceptional to see. You obviously Germany have dropped down. They're in a rebuild mode. They're not going to just roll over. They'll be looking to come back. It's really exciting to see how that will grow. I think the Rugby Europe Super Cup is crucial though for World Rugby to support. I don't think it needs potentially the Iberians, maybe not the Lusitanos as well. Maybe that needs another pocket because obviously the Black Lions pulled away because they wanted to go and try and get better rugby elsewhere. They were saying turned away by the URC. They looked at the MLR. They also looked at South America. They also looked at putting a team in Australia. There was all these other leagues that they were trying to look at. There's a lot going on in Georgia as well, as we know, with the doping scandal and funding, and the whole tide is changing. So before Georgia slide away, Rugby Europe need to find a way of being able to maybe pull the two separately. Maybe a Super Cup model that is like you've got a top tier and then you've got the Bohemia Rugby Warriors, and then go to the likes of Hungary, go to all these other nations that have got players that let's try and centralise contract them, subsidise it in some format, but let them put a close to a top tier model in place for professionalism and let them play alongside the trophy. It's only going to support like Sweden, Denmark, Poland, all these other nations will need that development model. Obviously, I've been speaking with the Greek rugby, as you know, Gibraltar. Imagine if they were able to put a team together that they're also allowed to run alongside Rugby Europe, the trophy or the conference and stuff, that was able to get those players together more often and put them on a pedestal, not a pedestal, but in the limelight and showcase this is what we can do when we actually put these professionals together.
100%. But I guess the main issue with that is the main issue with a lot of things and money. Yeah, exactly. So it's such a tough one. And as well, one of the main things about Rugby Europe is the fact that there's rumours that are pretty substantiated that they might be going from the championship from 8 to 6 teams, which would obviously have two extra people relegated and potentially a restructuring in terms of, I don't know, maybe the trophy would then go into like split into 2 and But effectively that could also happen, which could mean that could even it out in terms of like having, the championship as just the best of the best. It'd be like Georgia, Spain, Portugal. So it'd be quality and a couple of others, obviously. And the trophy might be a bit better balanced, but that could have an impact as well internationally.
There was a lot of rumours that that people had jumped the gun. It was discussed at the AGM the other day. Like, I spoke to a few people within Rugby Europe. It was discussed, and I think a lot of it was also dependent on how the Nations Cup, or whatever they call it now, is. It was sort of planned alongside. Because obviously there's all this World League model that they're trying to come together to reduce playing time and try to improve player quality, etc., etc. So they're one calendar that they're trying to work towards. There's still this big gap, though, obviously, with the autumn internationals, summer internationals, Six Nations in the middle, those nations in between. They're never going to get into the Six Nations. They're not allowed. Simple as that. That's safe. It's ring fence. You can't have Tier 2 nations trying to improve and only playing in November and in July. There's got to be something in the middle. I think this was, again, I speak to a lot of people. There's also a big argument that some people saw this as the worst rec. I disagree. I thought this was probably one of the better ones where anyone could beat anyone. I know there was a bit of a rebuild mode going on with a lot, but I think this showcased exactly what the championship should be. I just don't agree with how the model's been set. Last year was absolutely rigged. There was no airs or grace around it. That they wanted those 4 teams into the World Cup. The fixtures were fixed. Job done. That was them. The rest of it was kind of diluted. It was really saturated. We should start with a draw. We should start with, I think there should be one league, not 2 separate leagues that then come back together. I think we should try and do it as an 8-team or a 10-team. And then there's a progression. There's a clear progression. You can't, how many, so what, there's 6 leagues in the conference. You've got 6 leagues in the conference. So you've then got the trophy, but the trophy doesn't, like, you can get promoted and relegated from the trophy each year. You can't get promoted, sorry, you can get relegated though from the trophy. Yeah. But then the championship's under a 2-year model, but then that's also based on points. Like, do it as a league, and then we can break off, or you get more games, so you don't need to do a final. You do the finals day every 2 years. The first year, the league then carries across to the second year. So everyone knows who's going to get promoted, who's going to get relegated, right? That's how you get people interested. That's how you keep people retained, right? The first year, that's these fixtures, right? They're going to play these games home, away, home, away, home, away. Next year, right, in advance, we're going to be playing in Netherlands, in Amsterdam on this date. Right, perfect. Same as what the Six Nations does. People can start planning a year ahead and say, right, I'm going to book those tickets. I'm going to book that, and I'm going to make sure That's how we turn Tier 2 and Tier 3 rugby into the same level as Tier 1. That's how you get people travelling to different places, watching different games, watching different cultures, watching all of these bits that we love about the game and the world. You get to see on a cheaper budget, because you get to see what a standard of rugby as well. It's not like it's cheaper because it's just because it's not that commercial yet. But that's my rant.
No, I agree with you. If you give people notice, then they're much more likely to come than if there's a game, 2 weeks in advance. No one's going to go outside of that. Even fans of the people from the nation are going to struggle to go, let alone neutrals from Tier 1 nations. No, I'm completely with you. And another thing that's a sort of is a different, but it's a similar example, is the recent game between Czechia and Mexico, because that was really sort of built up, big celebration of Czech rugby. There was plenty of notice, and it was a game between 2 nations who wouldn't normally play each other from completely different parts of the world. And I think stuff like that as well, obviously money plays into it, of course it does. Yeah. But stuff like that as well is massive in terms of growing the game, because I think that Czech-Mexico game will have done absolute wonders for Czech rugby in particular, but also I'd imagine would have generated some interest in Mexico, because they'd have been like, wow, we're playing a team we hardly ever play.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think there's a lot more of those. Like, you got Colombia, you got all of these other South American nations that can also come, and Gibraltar are doing exceptionally well at getting these games on. They've already managed to get Sweden in a couple of weeks ago, which is a massive game as well. Sweden obviously managed to use it as a bit of a model as well, to bring debutants in and stuff like that. But that's the ambition that Gibraltar have already shown. Greece obviously trying to coordinate stuff. They managed to get a double header at home. It was very short notice that they were able to announce it, because they had to deal with all the regulations and try to get all through all the paperwork and stuff. But they managed to get their first international double header in Athens in 12, 13 years, or however long stupidly it was. The women's obviously played a conference game, and then obviously Kosovo turned up to play the men's. It's another case of these countries want to play rugby, but we need to try and get that global calendar, or a calendar ahead, for people to be able to go and enjoy it. Like last season, we had, I covered a lot of the rec. There was a Welsh geezer called David. He come along. He turned up to the Spain Georgia game, because there was obviously a gap week in the Six Nations, and then he turned up to the Spain Portugal game. And I bumped into him both times, and I spent good time with him as well. It was a good laugh. And obviously that was when Wales were terribly shit, like horrendous. And he goes, I said, "Why have you come here?" He goes, "Well, can't go and sit and watch that." But he made a purpose. He come to the first game in Madrid to watch Spain Georgia, and he literally went to the pub and booked for the Spain Portugal game, because he literally fell in love with how good it was. And that's the thing, you get that bug, you ain't going from it.
Yeah, 100%. It just shows that it's clearly a good quality, it's clearly a good product, and the main issue is getting people to see that product and getting people to view it and consume it in whatever way possible, really.
Yeah. Do you think the sort of the live, obviously the Rugby Europe do brilliant on getting as many games streamed across the whole model. There's plenty of things that they can probably do slightly differently to sort of engage more fans. Do you think some of them have got to potentially look a little bit different and think outside the box? Do you find that some people would probably like to see a little bit more of a different way of reporting on these ones, just to see what sticks? Like, this is probably the perfect testing ground.
Yeah, no, 100%. And an example that I just thought of while you were talking about that was, do you remember a few years ago when the Spain Sevens team went absolutely viral, because everyone was saying how fit they were, basically? That was just from a TikTok, basically, of the team being shown, and it would have got millions of views, if not hundreds of thousands, but it went absolutely viral. And that isn't the sort of content you traditionally see, like TikToks of players, basically just training really was all they were doing, but TikToks of players, short form content, that sort of thing. So yeah, there's definitely, I don't know about missed opportunity, because I think it probably is out there, but a missed opportunity in terms of marketing maybe, because I don't tend to see much content unless I go out and look for it from any tier 2, tier 3 nation, really. So it might be there, but yeah, it's just about getting it out to people in, like you mentioned in the question, in different and unique ways. Maybe TikToks, maybe shorter form content, maybe engage with a different audience. I'm thinking out loud, but yeah, just trying to get different people involved in the sport than traditional rugby fans, because for years the average rugby fan, let's say in England, won't really have had much of an interest in, let's say, Spanish rugby. So maybe you're barking down the wrong sort of tree to try and get that English rugby fan who's never been interested in Spanish rugby. Maybe it'll be more difficult to get him interested than a non-rugby fan who's potentially open to the idea. So yeah, it's an interesting point, and I do think there's room for improvement, but unfortunately, off the top of my head, I can't think of too many amazing ways to have that improvement.
I think you've hit the nail on the head, though. I think we've got to target people outside of the rugby bubble. Rugby fans are very much stuck in their own ways to a certain extent. A lot of them will only do what they like, and they don't. Most of them don't like watching rugby. Most of them only go there because they're on the beers and stuff like that. It's a lot of them aren't rugby noses that want to know different leagues and stuff. But I think being able to target the people outside of it and say, well, actually, it's not just rugby. You can come here you go to Madrid, like you could go to Yaganes, you could go to Valladolid, you can go all of these different countries and cities and experiences while substituting it with a game of rugby, which is a whole nother experience that some people have never. Once you sort of tried it, you get stuck into the bubble, don't you? It's just we got to get people from outside in and showcase that there is a little bit more to rugby than just people drinking piss and just being generally stupid at times and then being boring wearing gilets and brown shoes. Do you know what I mean? Like there is a little bit more to rugby than what the media sort of portrays. I think we've got to look outside the box rather than trying to convert fans. The fans that all want to convert have already converted. Those that it's outside the bubble, we've got to try and break new audiences and try and reach kids to a certain extent, but it's also the ones that haven't played the game. I think schools is crucial. A lot of people, every time you speak to somebody, how do we change the way that rugby's accessed? And it's got to be in schools. But they're trying this new T1, is it? Have you sort of seen much of it, where it's sort of a hybrid touch game but no tackles, and it's like a watered down version of the game to try and make it easier in schools, because you don't really need to be taught much. It's like 2-hand touch sort of thing. So they're trying. It's just, I don't know, how long do we want to carry on watering the game down before people then actually try the game and realise you are going to get tackled and it is going to work if you're not ready for it.
And to be honest, I think in the UK particularly, or in England, I would say, the issue isn't people liking the game. I think a lot of people, once they start playing rugby, you either love it or you hate it effectively, you know, getting tackled, the physical aspect. You're not going to change that. You're not, someone who doesn't like playing rugby isn't going to play rugby. I think where you can change it is the perception of the sport, because think about it, in the UK, there's a lot of very, very hard men who are in council estates, in working class areas across the country, who would never dream of playing rugby, even though they might do boxing, they might do other physical sports. They'd obviously love the physical aspect of it. They'd probably play football, so there's clearly a bit of a technical element there, obviously different technically, but football's a technical sport, so they could get used to the technical aspect of rugby, but the physical base is there, and they would never ever play rugby just because of the perception of it. You'd get taken the piss out of by your mates because, you know, it's a posh person sport. So I really think that's the bridge that rugby needs to gap. The fact that the stereotype and the perception of the sport is just it's just not where it should be, and not reflective of the actual sport itself. It's really, really missing a trick, I think.
How do you reckon we bridge that then without removing all the blazers and all the, because we still want to try and stand by the sort of the values and the traditions, but we've got to find a way of saying that is what it is, but also like we are just general blokes that are usually too fat to play football. Like we've all probably come from a football background, but we're either too fat. I've got the turning circle of the Art Royal, to be fair. So there's a reason that I can't carry on playing football, but I still love it. But I do love rugby more because it's more inclusive, and I think in the current climate as well, and the way that everyone wants to preach about inclusion and inclusivity across different bits. That's what the game, I think, needs to also grab onto more, is that we are that sport that can include everyone. It doesn't matter how tall you are, short you are, fat you are, thin you are, how quick you run, whether you've got feet for hands, it doesn't matter. You're still welcome at a rugby club.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's the $1 million question in terms of bridging that gap, because, like you say, you want to keep the traditional rugby values and everything. I would say where it's where it's probably most pertinent and where you could probably take the most from is the difference in crowds. People make a lot of rugby crowds, obviously, but you'll get some of the same people. Let's say I'm from Leicester, so let's say in Leicester, you'll have a lot of people who go to both Leicester City and Leicester Tigers, but because of the environment they're in, they'll act completely different at Leicester City compared to at Leicester Tigers. They're obviously the exact same person, exact same background and everything, but they'll be completely different because of the environment they're in. So in terms of getting more and more people into the sport, I'd like to say that I don't think it would be hugely difficult, because I think you're always going to have that environment of rugby, and people will sort of act accordingly, at least somewhat. Maybe they'll be a bit more boisterous or whatever than your average rugby fan or rugby player or whatever, but generally you'd probably tone it down more compared to if you were at a football match, for example. I would say, from my experience.
So what's your opinion on these away ends that they're trying to generate? Obviously, the Northampton Saints had it the other day, or they've got it coming up. Are you trying to make something out of nothing? I don't know. It's hard. You can't sell your soul and expect everyone to sort of flood money into the game without something dipping. And hopefully it's not that, because I think rugby tries to be a bit more family friendly. But you go to Twickenham, and it's full of just hooray Henrys that nobody can afford to go. You got people that have got corporate tickets, and their mate does. It's not. But then you go for a Red Roses game, and it's a completely different atmosphere because the price point's correct. It's not been priced out of the actual fat, and I think that's the bit that pisses people off. There is no middle ground between going watching women's rugby or going to watch England, the sort of the top tier men. Like it's hard to find that middle ground without being priced out of the game or going to watch women's game, which the women's rugby is brilliant. It's just people either want to go and see the Six Nations or they want to go and see the women's. It's kind of no middle ground because of the price point's been nailed.
I tell you what as well, just going back to the point about sort of trying new things and developing different audiences and stuff, I would say the Red Roses have got it spot on, because they've tapped into a non-traditional rugby audience, really galvanised them. Obviously the success has helped, but really galvanised a non-rugby audience, got them interested in the sport, but also got them interested in the personalities, in the Red Roses themselves. So I think they're an example that Tier 2 could potentially take stuff from. Obviously not exactly copy or exactly do what they're doing, but there's definitely something you can take from that, because they've really tapped into a non-traditional rugby audience very, very well.
I think they've obviously nailed the family orientated side of it as well, because it's more accessible. The cost isn't as bad. Like, you get to see top tier rugby, and as you say, people can relate. Like the rugby media, sort of the whole media training, I think, sort of stops a lot of access to it, and I think that's why we able to enjoy such great times with the Tier 2, Tier 3, because people want the exposure. They're not worried about the media training. They've obviously got an element of it, but they're also, their focus is to try and grow the game and make their vision longer. So yeah, I think I completely agree. I think the Red Roses have done an amazing job, and I just hope they don't turn them into a cash cow and make it inaccessible for the fan base that's made them become what they are.
Yeah, and you'd like to think that wouldn't happen, and I can't see that happening in the near future, certainly. But yeah, you never know with those kinds of things. But yeah, I think they've got it spot on, as I've said.
What else do we got to cover, Charlie? I think we've pretty much nailed most of Tier 2, Tier 3 rugby, mate. It's been a great chat. What's the best guest you've had on? I know you're probably going to piss your other guests off, but who's the one that you, apart from Finn, obviously, when you come away, what was you thought? Yeah, I've had a banger there.
Do you know what? I'll say two, and they're both actually from the same nation. So it would be unfair to say one and not the other. But I would say it's probably Alex Laybourne and Carl Savamaki, who are both Sweden. Well, Carl's left Sweden now to go to Australia, but they were both coaches in Sweden. They're absolutely from day one. They were in touch with us, helping us out with stuff, chatting to us. and they're absolutely great. But I mean, Alex today, for example, I completely forgot the trophy final was on Saturday, or like the last day of it. So, and I'm away tomorrow with work, and Friday I've got the day off. So I messaged Alex this morning and was like, "Listen, mate, can you give me a couple of lines about the trophy and the final day?" And literally within about 20 minutes, he was calling me and, you know, giving me loads of time of day. So he's a top bloke.
Awesome.
Carl's an absolute top bloke. He'd do the same as well. I'm sure if he was still at Sweden, I'd have messaged him as well. But yeah, those two specifically, I still chat to him like very, very regularly. So yeah, no, those two I would say are my favourite guests. What about yourself? Because, you know, you've had some interesting guests.
Wow. Yeah, I've had some. We've been really, really lucky. Probably the one that always sticks out for a similar sort of situation, as you said to yourself, was the late great Warren Abrahams. I had the pleasure of having him on. Obviously, sadly, we lost him earlier sort of a few months ago. But he was one of the first guests, and just the time and everything. He'd still message me sort of every month, just reach out, check how I was doing. Like I had him, he was going to come over and do some coaching stuff over here in Spain with me, and yeah, like when I sit there and I look back, that pretty much every guest has been phenomenal. Some have been harder than others. Like some of them, you come off and I think, what? Jesus Christ, like that was hard work. But we've obviously got Lucho does a lot of the stuff down in Argentina. Obviously, recently had Isgro on, and obviously Santi Carreras. He's just interviewed with Nacho Brex that comes out later today, and like we've been blessed with some exceptionally good. It's even chatting with players on the side of the pitch as well. So some of them have been exceptional, like Bimba, Laura Delgado. She's been exceptionally brilliant. I chatted with her briefly after the Brazil friendly before the World Cup, and then like we've kept in touch regularly. I obviously bumped into Claudia Pena the other day. She gave us the time of day during after the same game, and she's been brilliant. Sometimes it's not the full length interview, like it's the bits afterwards. So I was speaking to James Kent. He was obviously part of the Spain women's as well. Saw him Saturday. It's getting to interview these people and then going to see them at games and it's like spending time with them. It's great to see the network and like the people that put you in touch. But the one that always sort of, obviously with the situation as well, Warren Abrahams it was an absolute honour to interview him, and yeah, he was a great one. But with nearly every single guest has been brilliant, and got some great ones lined up coming up in the future as well. What's your ultimate guest? What's the one that when you interview them, you think, tick, I'm done?
That is a great question, because I would say in terms of tier two, who's the? It's got to be some sort of one of the great Fijians, maybe like Serevi or some like just an absolute great Fijian, because obviously we're specifically tier two. Tier three, I know Fiji, or maybe maybe like Gorgodze or some like a Georgian, I don't know, but we'll see. I'm sure the best stories, like you've mentioned, will be the stories from absolutely random people who no one's ever heard of, but they're absolute top people. But yeah, I would say probably a really big name Fijian or a really big name Georgian would probably be at the top of the list.
There's some bangers out there. Like as I said, I interviewed Matawalu yesterday. We got Malachi Korobetti lined up as well. What an absolute monster that bloke is as well, from where he grew. Josh Navidi, mate, some of the experiences that I've been through as well with this channel in the last 2 years is crazy. I played for the Flaming Unicorns in a charity game at the Heart of Wales Sevens against Shane Williams. Like I've played against Shane Williams, and Shane Williams has tackled me as I've sort of run over him. And I was, again, another bloke that's on my WhatsApp. I texted him the other day, happy birthday, and we were chatting and stuff. Some of these, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, how the fuck have I got Shane Williams' like number in me phone, and like he actually replies, and Andy Powell. But mate, I can't wait for us to probably catch up in a year or two's time when we figure out whether what we've actually discussed is true and the state of Tier 2 rugby is actually either watched what we've done, mate. Charlie, for those again that have made it all the way through this amazing chat with yourself, mate, where can they find your channel, podcast, who have you got lined up, if you can tell us, and obviously what you do, obviously with Ruck, and where they can find the rest of your amazing work, mate?
Yeah, no. So basically, on Twitter at All the Ruckus Pods, get us on there. Like I said earlier, we don't post massively regularly, but it's always good to keep updated on the channel. Spotify and Apple Podcasts. What's All the Ruckus? Just search that up, and I'm sure it'll come up. We've got already recorded. This was from a few weeks ago, to be fair, but it's not come out. We've got Jamie Cudmore, Canadian legend, top 14 winner. He was an absolute top bloke because he had a bit of a controversial exit from Canada. I don't know if you remember that, but he spoke pretty openly about that. So that was an interesting chat with him. A couple of other Rugby Europe guests got. I think the Slovenian head coach I've recorded with him, Peter Kavcic, and then a few others here and there. But yeah, we've had the likes of Niniashvili, Fabian Holland. So we try and get a good mix of, I would say, top level Tier 2 players / All Blacks, I guess, and lower level. We've had all the way down to, I don't know, like let's say Kosovo or Lesotho, people from there before. So yeah, pretty much every level is covered, like you do as well. So yeah, no, thank you very much for the chat. I really appreciate it, and hopefully in a year or two we're proven right with what we've been said and not been made out to be total idiots. But I'm sure it'll probably be the latter.
I'm sure if we have been proven idiots, like Ruck can use it as clickbait anyway. So on that note, for everyone that's joined us, I really appreciate your time. Make sure you go and check out Charlie and what All the Ruckus is all about. Another amazing vessel to try and understand Tier 2, Tier 3. It's not just about us. We want to promote everyone that is trying to lead the charge and bring the game into the eyes that we want everyone to see. Obviously, make sure you follow, like, subscribe, all the bits that we do. We've got plenty going on, and if not, go and check them out as well. They've got just as much, if not better, than what we do. So thank you for joining us. We'll catch you on the next one.